Okay, good morning everyone. Just as I promised, I brought Professor Weakley, and he's from United States. I've been teaching there at the Western Kentucky University for more than 40 years. And we have been good friends for 10 years, and we are working together in collaboration for the past almost 7 years. Okay, so I will introduce Professor Weakley, and then I want you to just tell us who you are. Is that okay? Just within 1 minute. Okay, here comes Professor Weakley. Thank you for coming to our lecture.
Well, good to see you this morning. It is wonderful to be able to visit here in your class again. Actually, in 2019 was the first year I had the opportunity of lecturing here at your university because of Obari Sensei. And so I come every year and really enjoy being here. And it's always wonderful to be with students from all over the world. I know you're from Indonesia, from China. You're from China as well?
Japan.
Japan. So 3 in Japan, 2 from China, and 1 from Indonesia. And so introduce yourself once again. Just give me your name. I'll be here for 2 more weeks. And so I wanted to make sure that way, hopefully I'll get to know who you are better. And so just mention your name once again, if you would not mind.
My name is Safira. I am from Indonesia, and I'm from the Department of Computer Science, and I am researching software engineering.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sophia.
Safira.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, hello, I'm Weakley, and I'm from Math and the Computer Science Department. I am doing research about AI.
Okay, doing research, great.
My name is Zhang Zijian, and also from the Computer Science Department. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
I'm Yamada, a first-year PhD student at the Department of Mathematical and Computing Science.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful.
I'm Yuki Ueno. Call me Ueno or Ueno-san. Yes, I'm from Japan. And I major in computer science and in particular software engineering.
Okay.
Yes, and have a good time.
Yes, well thank you. So glad to be here. Yes.
My name is Shunsuke Mikami, so please call me Mikami.
Okay.
So, and I'm from, my major is computer science and software engineering.
Okay, yes, wonderful. Well, it's wonderful that computer science and mathematics and majors. My first major in college was electrical engineering at my university, and then I started studying communication. And then I received my doctoral work in leadership studies. And so that's why we'll be studying while we are here is the aspect of leadership that we'll be discussing in both today as well as the next couple of weeks. Today we'll be looking at personal leadership. The series that I'm going to teach, we first start with ourselves. How do we lead ourselves? And then I will end the question today with asking basically, what kind of leader would you like to be? And I've just started, and so I'll let you guys Yes.
He's from Germany.
Your name is?
I'm Dennis.
Dennis, okay. And you're from Germany?
I'm from
He's a
Japan.
brilliant student.
Yes, well, wonderful, great. And you're also computer science department? Okay, wonderful. PhD student?
Master student.
Master student, okay. Well, great. Well, so nice to meet you. How long have you been here at Tokyo Tech, or Tokyo University?
I just started this April.
So this is your first semester here? Yes, okay, so you're wonderful. Well, that is wonderful. So nice to meet you, Dennis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Well, nice to meet you. So we will be talking about personal leadership, and I will end with a question at the end of our lecture today, and that will be discussing what kind of leader do you want to be. Next week we'll talk about becoming a global leader and cultural intelligence, and how necessary it is to have cultural intelligence and to understand from a larger perspective how to lead in a global context. But today we're going to be looking at the issue of personal leadership. You may ask why I come to Japan. We first started coming here because of my daughter. My daughter moved to Japan 15 years ago. She came here right after the tsunami of March of 2011 to help do relief work or to help take care of work in the country after the tsunami. And then she stayed with the intention of being an actress. here. And so she's a voice actress, she's a film actress as well. She sings Attack on Titan. You may have heard of that anime. She sings the final song of that Memory Lane on Attack on, and actually was in China, at Shanghai, China 2 years ago, singing in front of in a big crowd there in Shanghai, China. She's also been in other video games and things like Fake Grand Order theme song and other things of that nature. She now lives in this area here of Japan, in Otu, not too far from the university. She's married and has a little grandboy, my grandson, 2 years old. And I actually need to upgrade and get a better picture, get a picture of them together as well. Today we're going to be looking at, again, at the aspect of personal leadership, and this is a brief outline of what you can expect. We're going to talk about the impact of leadership. We're going to look at definitions of leadership, the relationships of a leader, and then we're going to be discussing the structure of leadership. At each of these sections, we'll be having some discussion. I'll be asking you questions, this so we can make sure that we are understanding each other, but also so I'll be able to understand some of your background as well. But first, what categories of life do we find the issue of leadership? I'll give you an example. In family, families always have a leadership, usually a mother and a father, and so they provide leadership structure for the family. So that is one category of life. But what are other categories of life in which we find leadership? Give me some feedback. So family?
Company. Company.
Government? Okay, yes, all right, good.
At school.
At school and education and in a university, we see that very commonly, like even here with the sensei. Good, okay. Military?
Government.
Yeah, okay, yes. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Government.
Government, yes. Sports, and it's interesting even in government when you think about different governments have a different leadership structure. Where the United States has a president, and a Senate, and a Congress. Other countries have prime ministers. Then you could even go to Great Britain, you would have a king or a queen that is involved in the leadership as well. And so basically different cultures have different aspects of leadership, but you and I find leadership in every capacity in life. Every place you go, there needs to be a leader. There needs to be someone that is taking the initiative, someone that is having an influence in bringing people together, or teaching them, or leading them, or guiding them. And we see different impacts of leadership in life. I have a picture here of 3 people, 3 individuals that had a great impact in my life. And after I discuss mine, I'm going to give you the chance to tell me who are the people that have impacted your life in leadership. There on the top left-hand corner, you will see right here, I'm the little boy with the red tie, the little red bow tie, that's me. That's my father, my mother, and my 2 sisters. My father was the first person, I would say, that was the first person leading in my life. He was an individual that I learned about life. My father was a very good father when I was a young boy, and he taught me how to work. He taught me the importance of working hard, especially with my hands. He used to say that if you have a job worth doing, you need to do your best. You need to work as hard as you can. And I learned really how to work with my hands. My father was an electrician. He basically put wiring in homes and in buildings. And so I learned about a house, and I learned how to work in a home. We also worked on a farm. And so I learned the value of hard work and working with my hands from my father. The man here on the right, the older man that bald that I'm standing beside, his name was Howard Matthews. Howard Matthews was in my life. He helped me to learn to lead with my heart. His son was my best friend as I was growing up. He helped me very much in my spiritual life, helping me to understand that life wasn't just what I see and what I feel, what I can touch, but that there's a spiritual dimension into my life. And it really was, he helped me to understand my heart. Now, the man in the center was a man by the name of Federal Judge James Fleming Gordon, James F. Gordon. In 1974, 1975, I mentioned I'm from Kentucky. He was the Kentucky Man of the Year. He was chosen as the most influential person in all of Kentucky during that time. He knew the president of our country. He knew the governor of our state. He was very prominent and very significant man. And I worked on his farm. He had about 300 acres, and then we had 50 cows on the farm. And I was responsible to take care of the cattle, to take care of the land, to drive his tractor, to take care of all of his property. And my goal in life at that time was to drive his tractor for the rest of my life. So he asked me one day, he said, Thomas, when you graduate high school, that was a high school student at that time, when you graduate high school, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to drive your tractor. I am going to work on your farm and keep working here. And he said, no. He said, you're going to college. And I thought, I cannot go to college. I cannot afford college. And I'm not smart enough to go to college. And he said, yes, you are. We will help you. And you will go get an education. See, 3 men had 3 different influences in my life. Again, my father, with my hands. That man, with my heart. And the judge, with my head. Or my intellect. And I put this diagram on the board because it's very important. Because there's a center area of this diagram that for some people, they only think about their hands. They only want to work with their hands. That can be significant, but they may not work with their heart or their head. Or other people use their hands and their head, but they do not use their heart. Or others, maybe their head and their heart, but not their hands. But I believe when you and I look at our life, we look at our life holistically. And for us to be effective leaders, we have to not just think and not just do, but we also have to feel. We need to understand other people and how to work with people. Those are 3 people that had an impact in my life. I want you to think a second. Who has been the person that has influenced your life? It is 1 or 2 people that impacted your life, and how did they do that? I'll just give you 10 or 15 seconds to think about it. And then I'll give you a chance to tell me who that person was and what did they do. Okay? Who'd like to volunteer first? Who was a person that had an impact? Who would you would say either your mother or your father, like I did at the beginning? Anybody? Okay. So your mother or your father?
Yeah, I want to talk about my father.
Your father,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that my father is the most important person in my life, and actually he has left our home when I was a primary student, when I was 7 years old, to find a better job, to earn more money, to get a better life for me and my mother.
Okay.
So I think I learned from him that a man is born to take responsibility.
That is excellent.
Yeah.
A man is born to take responsibility.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson to learn from your father.
Yeah.
So he moved away so he could get a better job, just to be able to help provide for you and for your mother.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's wonderful. Excellent. Somebody else say your mother or your father. Okay. If not your mother or father, who else? Tell me who's impacted your life. Dennis, how about you?
I know who impacted my life. It's my big brother.
Okay.
Who's about 10 years older than me. It's just difficult to summarize what
he did,
because because he's 10 years older than me, I could see in real time what it was like to be young adults to gain independence. Like I had that model
Example in front of you, yes.
right in front of me. So it was kind of, so when it came time for me to go to university, it was kind of easy for me to, instead of taking the conservative path of staying close to my hometown, I straight went like 5 hours away, and now I'm on the other side of the planet.
Yes, right.
So I think that was definitely a big influence.
Did your brother also get his education far from home, or like not in your hometown?
He actually was pretty close to home. He stayed pretty close to my hometown,
Okay.
but he very quickly gained independence in a way that
Yes.
I felt I want that too,
Okay.
and I want even more of that.
That's wonderful. He's 10 years older. My oldest sister was 9 years older than me, and so she became an example much like that as well. So that's interesting. So your brother, anybody else say your brother or your sister have an impact in your life? Okay. All right. How about you may say a teacher or a professor that's had the greatest impact? Okay. Yeah. Excuse me?
Yes, friends.
You said a friend?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. In high school or in college or?
Yeah, since high school.
In high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Since high school, since high school. Yeah, high school, college, graduate, university.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
That your friend
Yeah.
has it. And that's very significant because the people that we decide to spend time with can either help us positively or negatively. And so he evidently was a friend that helped you in a very positive way.
Positively.
Yes.
Yes. They positively impacted me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
About human relationships among many. How should I say in English? Sorry.
Okay.
Many people.
Many people.
Many people relationships.
That's interesting. Yes. Okay. Good. Who impacted your life, would you say?
My girlfriend.
Oh, your girlfriend. Okay.
Yes. We broke up once.
Okay.
But and so I have to make effort to continue with my girlfriend.
Okay.
So when I was a bachelor student, I have to study and do my part-time job. So yes, my girlfriend encouraged me to make effort.
Make an effort to change. Now, do you mind me asking, did you start dating her again?
Yes.
So you broke up, she broke up with you,
Yes.
and then you changed, and then you started dating again. Okay, that happens often. That we will often change because of the person that we are dating, and because we want to date them. We want to be a better person. And so excellent. You're the first person that's told me their girlfriend or boyfriend. I've asked that question to many classes, but that's the first time. So that's very true. Very, very good. How about you?
I would say there is no specific person in reality that impacts my life.
You don't think there's nothing, you can't think of someone specific?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe where you say I watch a lot of movies and a lot of books in my high school or junior school time. So I think the works, the fictions, they impact my life.
Yes. Well, there is, when I did my doctoral work, I wrote about mentoring and the importance of having a mentor or a person that you're looking to lead your life. And there's one type of mentor called a passive mentor, meaning it's a person that's a historical figure. I may never meet them, but what they wrote or seeing them on the screen or watching them on TV, that impacted, and I have a person like that as well. And so, interesting from what you've read and what movies that you have seen, that has impacted your life. Yeah. Okay. How about you?
I think of a senior from my high school.
Okay.
So I'm from a small city in my country. So he went to the best university in our country and overseas. he was the one who showed me what life is like outside my hometown.
Okay.
So that was the first time I, what to say, dream of getting out of my hometown to pursue society.
Yes, that's interesting. Yeah, they gave you a vision. They said, oh, you can leave your hometown. You can think of something different, which that is excellent. Excellent. And how about you?
My father.
Your father? Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Okay.
He is a detective at Ibaraki Prefecture Police, and he supports my family, and he was extremely busy.
Okay, good.
So that he had to leave. For example, when we went to the amusement park, like he was really busy and hardworking.
Okay.
And supporting my family.
Yes, that is wonderful. Much like your father, a man takes responsibility, and your father was very responsible like that. Most often, many of us can point to our mother, our father, brother, or sister, our friends, our girlfriend, because people impact our life, and that's why that leadership is so important. Even though you may not have thought of them as your leader, what they did really had that influence in your life. And that's the definition of leadership. If leadership can be defined in a simple word, it's the word influence. Sanders in his book said, leadership is influence. It's the ability of one person to influence others. One man can lead others only to the extent that he or she can influence them. Another writer, Thrall, said leadership occurs anytime one attempts to influence the behavior of somebody else. Northouse in his textbook says, leadership is a process whereby individuals influence others to achieve a common goal. And whenever I was working on my dissertation for in the topic of leadership, I also created a definition. It says, accepting a calling upon your life, or seeing that you have a responsibility, basically, upon your life as you live up life of personal character, influencing others toward a worthy goal. But that word that we see more than once is that word influence. In each of those definitions, it's the idea of influence in our life. Now, the way that we often think about influence is it begins in our life at a certain point in our life. Mark Twain makes this statement. Basically, even in how we want to have influence, we need to know the end goal. Mark Twain says, the two most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day that you find out why. I was at Waseda University last week lecturing, and I had the students do something when I asked you to do the same thing, and I had them hold up their finger. I spoke on this topic as well. And so I want you to look at your finger a second. Hold up your finger, look at your finger. And as you look at that, what do you see? Well, you see skin, of course, but you see your fingerprint. Do you realize there's 8.3 billion people on this earth? Nobody has your fingerprint. Of all the 8.3 billion people, you're the only person with this fingerprint. See, you have been created, and you have been created uniquely. And sometimes we forget. When we live in a society, we think, okay, you know, I'm just like this person or this person. And I say, yes, you can be similar, but you are unique. You are special. You have been loved and you have been created. And so the first most important day is the day you're born, or the day you're created. Secondly, it's the day you find out why you have been created. Why are you here? Not just why are you at this university, but why are you on this earth? And we're going to be discussing that as time continues as well. See, leaders influence others to share a goal through significant relationships. And as you and I understand that we have a purpose, and we need to find out that purpose, and then that we influence other people, and each of you mentioned a relationship. It may be a girlfriend, it could be a parent, it could be a sibling. but through significant relationships, people is how we have influence. And there are 3 relationships that every leader needs to manage or needs to be able to function in. It's a leader in others, a leader in self, and a leader in their mentor. The leader in their mentor helps you to understand your calling. Again, when I use the word calling, what I'm referring to is what I feel that I have been given as a responsibility to do. And your mentor often helps you to understand that. Even in your friend, with your girlfriend, it's that, oh, I need to be more responsible, or I need to change my behavior, or I need to act differently. Or like your father, you said, a man is responsible. That gives us, well, if I want to be a good man, I need to be a responsible person. It addresses the issue of why you do what you do, or that person does. The leader itself addresses the issue of your character. It's who you are. And then a leader in others deals with your cause, or why you're doing those things. I've got this drawn out. My son actually drew this for me, and I'll explain it briefly. It's just that the call is basically in your life of us understanding this is what I'm supposed to do. The quest is my character development, which I have a lecture I relate to just to this. And then there's a cause in my life. It's what am I going to do, and why am I going to carry and move in that direction. Let me draw this out on the screen a little bit differently. That's an individual, you, it's me, or whoever. And first thing we need to understand, or that we see, is we have a mentor. And the mentor is a person that's impacting your life. They are helping you to become the kind of person you want to be. It may be a passive mentor, a person who's written a book, or it could be a friend, or a colleague, or a teacher, or a parent like we talked about. That's the first relationship that we often think of when we're younger, that we have a person older than us. But one of my mentors in my life has been your sensei, Obari Sensei. In the last 8 or 9 years that we have known each other, I had never lectured in Japan before. And he invited me for my first lecture ever here at your university in 2019. And ever since then, we have worked together on many different universities. And he has helped me to understand the Japanese culture. He's also helped me to understand how to be more effective as a lecturer in Japan. And so you're always needing someone to impact your life. That's the first relationship. The second relationship is the relationship with yourself. Leading yourself can be the hardest person to lead. It's one thing for us to go and tell someone else to do something or to take a person in a different direction. But leading yourself is, especially when you get into your graduate work and in your PhD work, no one is telling you what you have to do. You have to read, you have to do your research, you have to do your program. And if you're not motivated, and if you're not disciplined, you will not be effective as a grad student, correct? So you really have to lead yourself, and you're moving in that direction. The next situation is others. It's people that follow us who are looking towards you to say, okay, how will you help me become a leader? And therefore, what ends up happening is we always move toward a goal or a purpose. When we think of leadership, this is what we're often thinking of, me leading somebody else. But I want to expand your understanding that leadership is not just you leading others, but it's finding out who is going to lead you, and it's also finding out, can you lead yourself? Because then what ends up happening is, then when you start heading in this direction, into purpose, people will follow you. And so the question I guess we need to ask, is what does it take to be a good leader? This is the diagram that on the same thing we just talked about. And the question is, what does a leader do? I want to give an illustration I think that's helped me, and that is I believe that a leader gives life. In its very simplest way, a good leader provides life for people. After we were here in 2019, we came back in January of 2020 before COVID hit, and had 2 years of pictures that we had taken on our iPhone. I got back to the States and my phone died. It just went completely dead. And so I took it to the phone repair shop in my town, and I said, "My phone is dead. Can you fix it?" He looked at it and he said, "Yes, it is dead. It is no good." He said, "Throw it away and I'll sell you a new phone." And I said, "No." I said, "I've got pictures on here. I want these pictures." He said, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you. I recommend you buy a new phone." So I took it to another store and I told the guy, "My phone's not working. I think it's dead." He said, "Yes." He said, "It is." He said, "I can fix it, but I want to have to erase all the data and stuff that is on your phone. I want to have to take." And I said, "Well, I've got pictures on here and data I need to keep." I had not backed it up on the cloud. And he said, "I'm sorry." He said, "You'll have the phone, but you will not be able to use it. You'll have a new, it'll be like it was brand new." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that." And then I called my friend who was a technician in my town who's very good, and I said, should I take my phone to? He said, "You need to take your phone to Bob at this certain store, and he will fix it for you." So I walked into the store, handed him my phone. I said, "I think it is dead." He said, "Yes." He said, "But I can fix it." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, I said, are you going to erase the memory?" He said, "No." I said, "Are you going to keep it like it is?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I can fix it, and you will have your memory." He said, "I can take what is on your phone that is dead, and I can give it life." And see, and that's what a leader does. And sure enough, I gave him 10,000 yen or $100, and he fixed my phone, and I got it back the next day. See, I believe in many ways that's what a leader does. A leader gives us life. So let me explain what life is. L-I-F-E. First of all, a leader leads by example. And you had mentioned that, Dennis, that your brother was the model for you. He was the example for you. And that's often true for us. You want a leader that you're looking to, or your mentor, that in an impact in your life, that you care and you respect their example. You want to be like they are as you grow and as you mature and as you develop in life. So the first thing the person does to be a good leader is they lead by example. The second thing a person does if they want to be a good leader is they inspire others toward a purpose or a goal. They inspire you toward an objective. Even your father, even though you didn't realize it when you were a young boy, the goal was being a responsible man. He gave you a vision toward that. My father was responsible. Example. See, leadership always involves a goal or a purpose. And a good leader in your life, as well as for you as you lead others, helps them to go from a person who does not have a purpose and vision and heads them in a direction so that you are inspired by them. They inspire you to go in a direction. So they inspire toward a vision or purpose. The third thing a leader does is they take you from fear to faith. From fear to faith. You know, COVID took place, was it, I guess, 6 years ago. And the entire world was afraid. We were afraid of leaving our house. We were afraid of catching a disease from someone that we didn't know. We had to stand 6 feet apart or so many meters apart. We had to always wear a mask. And our culture was afraid. But leaders found vaccines, they found medicine to help us to overcome those fears. I believe people are not just afraid of COVID or were afraid of COVID. I believe fear is a great hindrance to leadership. We can be afraid of failure. We can be afraid of disappointing our mother or father. Or we can be afraid of not passing the test. or not completing our degree. There are many things that people can be afraid of, and I believe unless we can overcome those fears, and when we have leaders who help us overcome those fears, they give us faith, they give us courage, they give us able to trust and to move forward. One of the greatest leaders of all time said that perfect love casts out fear because fear involves punishment, but you have been loved perfectly. And even when I have a loving relationship, that helps me to overcome the fears that are true in my life. First thing, they lead by example. Secondly, they inspire you toward a vision. Third, they take you from fear to faith. And then lastly, they encourage your heart. Not only do they give you a vision, not only do they give you that example, but they say, Dennis, you can do it. Go for it. Or you can leave your city, or you can leave your hometown and go to another and get education someplace else. They really take your heart and they help you to say, you can do that. My friend, the attorney or the judge, encouraged my heart to say, you can get an education. And often I think he would be so shocked and surprised that now I'm a professor. Because when I worked for him, I was just a little boy, 15, 16, 17 years old. But he encouraged my heart and helped me to be able to move in that direction. Lead by example, inspire toward a vision, take you from fear to faith and trust and courage, and to encourage your heart. They take you from death to life. Now I have a question. Which letter of life is most important to you and why? Another way you say it, what kind of leader do you want to be? So not only enter this in a sense of, this is what I want in a leader that's helping, this is what I need, but this is what I want to do. Okay, I'll go back to that list. On L-I-F-E. Which one of those is most encouraging to you or helpful to you and why? Just take a few seconds to think about it.
Let's have a group discussion then, yeah?
Excuse me, and yes, and then we'll get a chance to discuss it.
Okay. So could you just pair? One, maybe two or three, yeah. Could you just discuss?
Yeah. You can turn and talk together about it, and then I'll let you share with me as well.
Yeah.
To get a chance to.
What do you think?
I would say that I am inspired to each other. You were saying?
Yeah.
Why?
I think
How to prepare?
Most important.
I think it's especially
F
like,
from
I
here.
feel like a lot of
Here,
people
face,
feel like they have no purpose. Like there's kind of nothing there. Maybe they have a personal goal.
You mean the purpose of your research for life?
Yeah, a purpose that's like a little grander than just I want to say.
How can we,
Maybe
how can
something
we
your
Because
group
it-
or your community can like aspire to.
It's about mentality.
I
There is
I often feel like people of my generation feel like this.
Mentality is most
Yeah,
important.
I think so.
Guidance.
I think so. Well, I think it
And there is a very promising vision. It's not just about
we are in it as a community. You don't need to
sorry, but it's hard to say because my life, I'm 23 years old. I haven't met someone
that is
who have the exact of
But you feel you need that
who
goal.
make me do something a real leader is back in my father. So I think it's hard to
But you would say then, though, that inspire you toward a vision or purpose, that would be what you're kind of saying, is that person does that, they
But I think it's, well, I think this is not so easy because I haven't met an example that I
Okay.
can use to prove such proposition.
That's what I see.
States that, well,
We can start
A lot of people will
So I think it's inspired.
Okay.
It's not solely enough.
Ideas.
Yeah, it's not, so you have, so your father is your best leader you ever had then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, but there is also another context because because he is working in a different city, and myself I go to a different city.
I just say I don't really see that
And from actually since then my family, mine, me, and mother is really
Wow.
important.
So your mother's one place, your father's one place, and you're one place.
Yeah, so this is, I think this is a very important factor that I think there is no one
And
be really
researching my
So you've had to lead yourself then?
Yeah, for example,
Yeah, that makes sense. And you said lead by example, was it?
very nice
Because if the person isn't doing that,
everything by themselves.
you want to be like them, you know?
So he does not rely on
Okay, if I see an example, I will know what to expect.
otherwise.
Right now, like,
We can
Yeah,
adopt
so
it.
if they're not doing it or do not want to do it, then why should they be expected for you to do it? Yeah, I think that's
I
what
want
it
master
is.
to be
And then also, I guess that calls you to be you have to be a good example
I'm
to
already
you
doing
yourself then, so others can apply that. That's very good.
How that work.
But
so your professor gave you some advice.
Ruby can't cook.
yes,
Ruby can't.
Which one did you say?
Guy.
Inspire?
After you listened to his lecture, did you change your concept of leadership?
Personally, I feel like
Yeah, I just remember
Yes, I actually
changing direction to other
people like me,
Yes.
I often
And
now
thinking about
my friends, there's a feeling of like wanting to do something but not knowing.
I
I used to be the kind of person, like I often ended up.
Did you change your concept or?
At first I
This kind of concept?
Yes.
At first I
Kind of like my
thought
because
leadership
I hardly want
was
to
to
take the
make
work.
someone do something.
But
And then
in that
from this
situation, I
lecture,
wasn't
I
able to
realized
say,
that
this
to
is what
lead
we're going
is
to do.
to inspire,
And this is
not
why
just tell someone
like
what
this
to do.
work to receive.
What about your leader, political leader?
I mean, which one did you say?
I know, sorry about it.
For
You need to talk about politics.
Actually,
I mean, for your
actually,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not
leader,
so
actually,
curious.
professor.
oh, I see.
Because I think politicians are
Okay.
they're buttock.
They're all
Vision
not
or
true
that
leader.
expectation to do it, yeah.
So they can just tell me,
This is ideal leadership.
they can only encourage me. They can't give me some
I tend
concrete
to
instruction.
Yeah, that makes
most
sense,
things
yeah, that's
by myself.
In China, you even before the political group.
As he said,
Because I'm not
relying on others
Which leader?
is very important.
Political leader, do you respect?
it is not easy to rely on others.
I was not
Yes,
allowed to talk
yeah,
about
it is difficult to rely. You said, is it
Because
difficult?
my
That you have
Chinese
to-
my friend talked about politics.
Generally,
Because it's now
very difficult, but
Yes.
it's now
Politicians are always so
So you have to choose your leaders very carefully.
Actually, I can also talk about politics. I have my own
True leadership.
Which one of those do you say is most
I started
important?
talking
They're leading the people for their own sake.
What is the most important?
Yeah.
They take you here to faith, trust and courage.
And
Because it's
I
about
do not have the ability to
some like
leaders
in
as
like
a
I'm very politically minded.
leaders must
But it
So there are
results
some
in
actual politicians
must
if
be
we talk about
guided
leadership. I would not talk about
being maybe
politics.
about politics.
And I said I think politicians
What
are
about the
all
culture?
just about technical.
In 1970s, he was a really good leader in the
Which
West.
one did you say?
yes,
Before you were born, yes,
the mentality
in
is the
1970s.
fundamental of our life.
He was a very influential leader in the Western world. I used to study political science.
You're not healthy emotionally. You're not unstable emotionally.
He was
for example, if you are Chinese and you talk about politics, you talk about politicians, and you talk about presidency and something
he was
everybody will say he's a stranger, stay away from us.
and this was the first he led the charge.
Yes, obviously, for example, you are applying for a scholarship or a foundation,
And like actually,
you are funding that you talk about.
like people think about the trust
This will be
continues your
afterwards, but he was a lot of politics to shop for memory.
So we don't talk about it.
Okay, let's.
You like to continue. You know, I found out from each of you as we've talked, you've had a couple of you said from fear, the F, from fear to faith. You said to encourage your heart. You mentioned that you need to leading by example. Yours were, I think you both had inspired toward a vision that you talked about. And I think in many ways that's what you would say. Is that correct? Inspire. If you had to narrow it down to one of those, would you say the I? Inspired toward a vision? Okay, yeah. And I think, and that's significant in a group even this size, each of those situations were true. And again, I've asked this question at 3 other universities since I have been here. And again, a variety of issues that people decide. And I think it's because each of us have unique needs. Each of us have a very specific concern in our life or something that we're looking toward. Often it's because of the person who's leading us, who has led us, causes us to say, this was my example. I want to be go in that direction as well. But that's the first thing that a leader does, is that leader gives life. Now what I want to do now is talk about the leader in self. Now, so again, the leader and the mentor is the person that they're giving you life. And so if you want to be a mentor, you need to be a person that gives life as well. Then I'm going to look at the issue of a leader and self. So what is it going to take for you to lead yourself? A number of years ago, I was lecturing at a university in Kentucky. And actually, I was giving a talk on relationships. And in that talk, there was about 300 students, male and female, in this group. And a girl at the end of the class raised her hand and said, "What do I need to look for in a person I date?" Most likely, she was thinking about her future boyfriend. And I made this statement. I said, you need to find out if the person you date has drive. Meaning, do they have personal motivation? You even talk about to some degree that this culture, you know, do we know our purpose? So many young people may not have that sense of purpose. And so I want to discuss the concept of drive or motivation that a leader and self needs to deal with. I'm going to look at 5 areas, and you have discussed some of those already. The first one is they have dynamic determination. Dynamic determination. So when I mean dynamic determination, what I mean is they're going in a direction, you're moving in a direction, and then all of a sudden that you get a roadblock and you can't go that way. So what do? You have to internally and mentally change. You're still going in the same direction, but you have to have a dynamic sense of changing the direction so that you can get to where you want to accomplish. You know, on our phone, we have Google Maps, or we have GPS. And if you're driving a car, and in that you're driving, and all of a sudden you get to a certain spot, and there's a roadblock, or there's an accident, your GPS is going to say, you have been diverted, turn left and go this way. And it still takes you to your objective, but it changes the course of getting to the objective. And that's what is necessary to lead yourself. Do you have dynamic determination? Do you know where you're going? And do you have the strength to say, I want to get there, even if I have to go a different way, because this objective, this purpose is worth heading toward. Number two is they need to be person needs to be relationally connected. Relationally connected. One of my mentors used to make the statement, if you call yourself a leader and no one is following, guess what? You're just taking a walk. Meaning, leadership assumes and implies that somebody else is following you. So if you call yourself a leader, you have to have relationships. You have to be able to connect with other people, to listen to them, to engage with them, to understand, to have empathy with them, to know who you're leading, so you can go in a direction. I noticed that all of your computers, all but one, are Apples. And yours is a PC as well? Yeah. So we all know who Steve Jobs is, right? Steve Jobs, I did not know him, of course, but he was a remarkable person, technologically minded, but everybody who worked for him said he was a terrible person to work for. That he was smart, and he created all these things that we have, but you did not want to be his friend, because he was not a good friend. He was not very relationally connected. At my university in Kentucky, I have students in my class, they have to choose a leader, and they give a 10-minute presentation on a leader and what that leader did, and every time a person chooses Steve Jobs, they do research, and they found out, oh, he was hard. He was not easy to work for. He was not the best kind of friend that you would want to have, often because of being unconnected relationally. So the question for you and the question for me, if I want to have drive, I need to have relationships. Do I have someone in my life that's my friend? Do I have someone that's coming with me? Do I have people in my life that I can talk with? Because that's how you don't just lead things, you lead people. And so you need to be connected to those people. Third, you need to have internal inspiration. Now we've talked about, a second ago, here is the phrase, inspired toward a vision. And so your leader can inspire you, but they can only take you so far. You have to have internal inspiration. When I was a student in college, I remember my leader asked me, what are my goals in life? And I was discussing it with him, or goals for the semester. And he said, Thomas, are you internally motivated or externally motivated? External motivation basically means that, I've got to make good grades so I can get my degree. Or, I've got to change my life and my girlfriend's going to break up. Or, I've got to get up and so I don't flunk my class. But those are external things. The question is, what about internal? When there's nobody else asking or putting pressure on you, what do you do? And that's the best leaders are those who don't have to have someone else say, do this, or do this, or do this. But they have that internal motivation that they can inspire themselves when nobody else is inspiring them. Number 4, their values are solidified. Their values are solidified. I was at Waseda University last week, and I did a lecture there on values in leadership. It was for Jun Sensei, and I passed around a piece of paper, and we had a thing called a value clarification. And I asked them to think through on this piece of paper what were the top values in their life, the top 3, and then we discussed it as a class. Because every leader has values, things that to you that are important. Now, what's important for you may not be the same that's important to you, or vice versa. And so what has to happen is you have to determine internally, well, what are my values? So give me some feedback. What are some values that people need to have in relation to be a good leader? What are some just personal values? Some examples of values that a person needs to have. I'll give one just as an example. The compassion. If a person is compassionate, then they are much more effective as a leader. That's one. Give me some other, volunteer some other words.
Respect.
Excuse me?
Respect.
Respect, yes. Now, respect for who?
Others.
For others and for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great respect, because if you don't respect others, you will not listen to them. If you don't respect yourself, you'll let people push you down, or you will not keep moving in a direction. So respect, excellent. Another value that's important.
Common goals.
Common goal? Is that what you said?
Common goals.
Okay, yeah, common goals. Okay, yeah, that you have, and I use the word maybe direction. That you value direction. You value that vision or that purpose that's there. You have a common goal. Especially if you're leading other people. If you're working for McDonald's and you want to make pizza instead of burgers, you probably don't want to work for McDonald's because they don't serve pizza, right? You might want to go to Domino's or to the other pizza place. Or if you want to serve chicken, you can go to KFC. But if you go to McDonald's, they only have one piece of chicken, and it's not as good as KFC. So you have to have a common goal and directions. Excellent. Another value that would be important.
Consideration.
Excuse me?
Consideration.
One more time.
Consideration.
Consideration, that you're considerate of that person. And like you could almost say that, how does a person show consideration? How do you know if a person is considerate?
This is difficult. For example, like if you're how to say, if you're a teacher, then there's one student who, how to say, has who come from, like for example from a small town who did not have like that good education access. Then I personally think that teachers should spend more time on that student.
Yeah, to help that person, to be considerate of that person's condition or background, to help that individual to be more effective in things. Good, excellent. Yeah, and you can be considerate by listening. Respecting is part of being considerate, but it's really considering what the other person is thinking. Another word we have for that is the word empathy. To be empathetic. There's a phrase we say in America, don't criticize a person until you have walked in their moccasins or walked in their shoes. And so you basically, you want to, before you start to be critical, do you have empathy for what they have gone through? Do you understand? Because once we know what a person's gone through, it helps us to realize, oh, when you consider their situation, it may be different. Give me one more value that that person may consider.
To appreciate for others.
Appreciation for others.
Yes, appreciation.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
Just thank you for your work. Thank you for your existence.
Well, yeah. So even that verbal appreciation, not just appreciating them, but acknowledging them. That kind of relates to encouraging their heart, isn't it? And so in each of those, and we could go through a whole list. You can have many, many different values. But the question for you is, if you have your list of values, compassion, respect, consideration, goals, appreciation, whatever they are, do you do those values? Do you possess them? Or do you hope somebody else does, but do you have them yourself? So you have to have your values solidified as well. Number 5 is to be emotionally healthy. And you referred to that to some degree earlier. That you want to be a person that can handle conflict, that can handle difficulty, that's emotionally stable, so that when things are not going well, that you're able to, take a deep breath. That relates, I give an assessment in America called the EQI assessment, Emotional Intelligence Assessment. And it looks at self-awareness, conflict, how to overcome difficulty in life, and it helps a person look at their life and think through, oh, I'm struggling in this area or this area. But a good leader, as they lead themselves, they need to have a sense of being emotional healthy. Give an example. If you're a leader when you go to talk to them and they're nice to you one day and they're helping you understand and they're very considerate and respectful. But then the next day, you walk in and they're mean and they're aggressive and they're real critical. You think, okay. Then you go over here. Then the next day they're real nice. And if there's not a sense of consistency, you do not know if you can trust them or not. It's because it's hard to trust people. And so that person needs to have emotional healthiness. And so for you and for me, dynamic determination, relational connectedness, internal inspiration, values, and emotional healthiness. Those, you have a drive. Yes?
Yeah, may I just add, what about integrity? Integrity, you know?
Integrity?
Yeah, integrity.
Yes. Oh, that would be an intense value that is necessary. Is that, are you a person of integrity? Are your words, do you say what you mean, and do you mean what you say? Are you honest? Do you have truthfulness? Those are all, that's a great example of another value. I want you to, same way we did this last time, I want you to look at those letters, and which one of those is, this is my strength, I think I'm pretty good here, but I need help in this one. This is an area that's a weakness or a non-strength that you could use some development in. So discuss with your group again, which one of those is your strength, and which one of those is the one that you need more work on, I guess you could say.
I said no of it. No of these are my strengths. Almost all of this. Especially internal.
Let me make, before you answer, do you have any questions about those? Did I clarify them enough? Does it make sense? Okay, let's we'll make sure that you they understood. So yeah, you can discuss them. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I think especially internal inspiration.
And sometimes to think with your
Yeah.
As for my research,
Usually about motivation.
dynamic determination,
Usually we talk about extrinsic motivation and also intrinsic motivation.
Internal, external.
values of
I have used that term of intrinsic versus extrinsic. And it's okay to be external about it.
But when I complete a manuscript, then I will submit it to my.
We could meet outside of that.
flexible
So,
enough.
you,
When
I think of course, but
I
after
don't
she
taste it.
check the system, I have no,
I have
And,
some
I have no
with my
interest in doing all this.
and some and I have some friends in my Japanese school.
Which one did you
But
say?
it's
Outside of class, you don't.
yeah,
you
outside
don't-
of class,
Maybe
I don't really
dynamic
determination.
internal
Feels like
inspiration, values.
I mean,
My weakest, my weak
that is the one relationship that's the most
emotion.
It's good that you were able to look at each of those, seeing the strengths and the areas and needing.
one really good friend,
Maybe you can social events.
with people.
People
I
get many theories.
And also, my biggest is also interesting in the same fields.
Yeah, that
Make other follow me.
I arrived 2 months ago, and I was still feeling like
I
I
think
was
that the
waiting.
PhD if you do not have a strong potential inspiration, you can.
Yes, you're right.
But I would say that
If you're not relationally connected, you will not be emotional. Yeah, that's a very good
other things.
And since your experience shows
I
that
feel
you
like
are
they would agree if I improve
being very, you have a gut feeling to make decisions like this. So you always
I'm good at it.
Okay, you're gifted.
I like to think of myself.
That's a strength of yours. Which one would you say is a weak area that needs improvement?
And so I
My values. I think I'm
My weak point. Yes.
I spent a lot of my time as a teenager
Dependent on
thinking about
Okay.
yes.
philosophical issues.
I read the way. I read the
I just enjoyed it a
correct
lot.
way.
You like the Germany education?
I have
I
actually come
read
and
German philosophy.
Yeah, I come
and
Immanuel Kant.
have to go
Yes, Kant.
Yeah, I come here as a master student.
with no.
French
Yeah,
philosophy.
at the time I was
Yes.
Give me.
Those are
I think
yes,
yes.
on science.
those are fine mind.
Yeah, I live here since it's 8.
I think everybody can. I think.
You know, can't you follow five of them?
Objective perspective.
Five.
Always ahead.
Yeah, I think it's five.
I need
You
objective
need to make sure that you're going at this objectively.
Yes.
To make sure that's what makes sense.
Because I get scared sometimes.
Nobody could follow. Nobody could beat the five factors. I don't think.
I read about West
Yeah, I think
Mostly house.
yes, house.
Which kind of
Yeah, what one?
Emotionally healthy.
Yeah, I don't mean this word. I mean self-consistency.
Consistency.
I don't know.
Yeah, self-consistency. This is word.
Which one was your strength and which one was your weakness? Would you say?
We need others.
We just want to
always need
If you are
Logical
others,
coherent and the.
Yeah, you have to be self-consistent.
Professor Weakley,
Yes.
yeah, we'll talk about this one, emotionally healthy.
Yes.
And he's asking, you know, we have to be more logical and
Okay.
healthy.
That's definitely difficult.
This one.
When I say, if I was to say a person is emotionally healthy, it means they are consistent in their ability to handle stress, conflict, anxiety, worry, anger. I was a lecturer at Waseda. One young man said his example was his grandfather, because his grandfather was kind. And then he said, and I'm an angry person. And he said, I struggle with anger. And he said, so my grandfather has been helpful because it helps me to be calm. And so it's not that we don't have, we're going to have all the emotions, but we want to make sure that those emotions do not control us. There are going to be times that everyone's going to be angry, but if you get angry, can you control your anger? Or am I going to hit someone? Or everyone's going to be sad, but how do I act when I'm sad? Or how do I act? Everyone is going to feel anxiety. But then do I freeze? Or everybody's going to be afraid. And do I fear and stop? Or do I persevere through my fear? So that makes sense.
I have a question. I'm not sure about the concept of emotionally healthy. You are very self-consistent. External factors. For example,
So that we don't have to meet five factors.
some upset words, some
I know it's a word, but I don't know the English name.
Criticalness or conflict, yes.
yeah. For example, you find you are struggling
Yes.
So how will you react?
If you're emotionally healthy,
Very self-consistent.
yeah.
And we can people will not react that. You will not take that into consideration.
And yes, and I think, yes, you're doing your research and you hit a wall in your research and you can't stop. Well, then, an emotional healthy, an emotional unhealthy person would give up and stop. An emotional healthy person would say, no, I have to go past this obstacle. I have to keep working toward this, going through this obstacle. Or instead of breaking down and crying for 2 days, they go ahead and
I'm talking about
Okay.
It was very
Is reject.
philosophers.
Yes.
What do you
Then
do?
you,
So,
even
I-
though
Yeah,
you
just-
thought your
Make
paper
others
was perfect,
Yeah, just
applied
feeling
to
to
your
physics.
point of view,
Yes.
but your paper got rejected. The rejection may not come from the paper quality. It may just be
Selfish.
well, by luck.
Right. So how should a person respond in
But,
that
yeah,
situation?
because I think if you are very yourself,
Be correct.
you will not take this into consideration because you know you are your research.
Yes.
But
This
could
is
this
the famous
be called emotional health?
Yes, that would be, that's an example of emotional health. That your paper is rejected. You think this was a very good paper, so you go ahead and you keep moving and maybe submit the paper to another company or something like that.
Maybe
You might.
I didn't.
Now, and then you have to be honest. You may doubt and think,
No, but
okay,
I understand what you're.
do I need to change things in the paper? You may, because any criticism is, there's a phrase in America you may have heard is a broken clock is correct
So much.
2 times a day.
External.
You know, a clock, it is correct, even if it's broken, it is correct twice a day.
Meetings and
yeah.
Because, and so if you get a criticism, even if it's 90% bad, there may be 10% that, I think that maybe I need to fix this 10% and not view everything as bad, but view that one part as negative.
How do I say?
So you mean house
Not necessarily.
And my job.
one person has additionally but really
I have like
thousands.
Yes, oh, we're still gonna have down. Let me continue now. Let me
Yeah,
address
Professor
that.
Weakley, we have several questions, you know.
Yeah, let me,
Okay, go ahead.
here, we've had a discussion here about some of these things.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and see, are there other questions? Does it make sense? We had the question about emotional healthiness. He gave a very concrete, practical example. Let's say you're doing your research and you submit your paper and it gets rejected. And you think, this is a good paper. You know, this should not have been rejected. How does an emotional healthy person respond to that? So let's discuss that a second. That may happen to you. That's pretty concrete. That could take place. What is it? What is? Let's do it negatively. What is an unemotional healthy person? A person who's not emotionally healthy. How would they respond?
Maybe we are leading Mara and then we refute them. We would write a nasty letter or whatever. Just,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't you? You are not qualified to be a good judge.
Yes,
Just,
yes, you judge the, what they call it, you judge the messenger. So you attack that person, that person's bad, that person is stupid, that company is bad, that university, that professor doesn't know anything.
Yes.
So you attack the person. Instead of, an example I gave is that, there's a phrase we've used before, that a broken clock, you know, a clock that has all the 1, 2, 3, up to 12, and then goes back, is correct twice a day. Because twice a day you're going to be at that time. If it's 102 or 105 and it's broken at 105, it's going to be 105. So nothing is all good or all bad. An emotionally healthy person understands, okay, my paper is rejected. Okay, I need to think about this. Maybe it's 90% correct, and I need to adjust 10% of it. And instead of saying, I'm a terrible student, I'm going to drop the program. I'm no longer going to pursue my PhD. And so an emotionally healthy person looks at reality and says, okay, this is real. How am I going to respond to my reality? Good things and bad. Another example, you have many, many emotions. Will you tell me, what are some of the emotions people feel? Anger, okay? What else?
Fear.
Fear. What else? Joy.
Not logical?
No motivation.
Yeah.
Motivation.
Sadness.
Sadness.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
And despondent?
Yeah, despondent.
Yeah.
Now, there's many emotions. We will all feel these emotions. A person, first of all, let's say anger. Let's say he or she feels anger. That feeling anger is normal. If you take your anger and you attack, or you hit someone, or you do something illegal, that is emotionally unhealthy. Because we all feel anger. I'm staying with my daughter, and she has a 2-year-old son. And he gets mad, and we're trying to teach him to control his anger, and not to hit or not to throw something, because that's just normal. Now, you expect a 2-year-old to throw things and to get angry. You do not expect a college student to throw a fit and throw things. And if they are, that means they're not emotionally healthy. And so, all of these emotions are real. How do I respond to those emotions? And so each of us have to learn and mature and grow and lead ourselves to be in those ways. Does that make sense? Let me make one comment. Go ahead.
No.
I want to make one comment that you discussed. You brought it up very casually when you talked about being relationally connected. Let me give you a warning. This does not help you be, just because you have friends on Facebook or friends on Instagram, or you follow someone, or you have a chat bot, does not mean that you're relationally connected. And with AI can give you information, but it cannot be your friend. It's not a person. It's not human. And your culture, we have a culture now in the world where AI is causing people to be relationally disconnected. We used to say the phone will help connect us. Now we realize people are disconnected. Even in Japan, I think right after COVID, they formed a department called the Ministry of Loneliness, because people are so lonely. And so a good leader is a person, or a healthy leader is a person who has relationships. And if you do not have relationships, I do not believe you will be emotionally healthy. I think that these two are very important because they play, and you had said that if you're relationally connected, you're more likely to be emotionally healthy. If you're not, because people are the ones how do you make rocks that are difficult, or rocks that are jagged? How do you make those smooth? We bought our grandson a rock tumbler, and he puts all these rocks, and they've got rough edges, and he tumbles on them. And when they roll together, it knocks the rough edges, and then he has these smooth stones that come out. And that's people. The more people that you have in your life, the more likely that you get the edges. Perfect example. Your girlfriend said you have rough edges, and I'm going to break up. And then I'm the same way. My wife, before we got married, my mentor said, "Thomas, you need to marry her because nobody likes you, and everybody likes Laurie because she's so nice." And he said, "If you marry her, people will start liking you because she will knock off my rough edges." And that's what is true in relationships. It's friendships, dating relationships, classroom relationships, relationships between professors and students, because it helps you to learn. So does that make sense though? Any other questions about those?
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
There are 5 important factors, of course, to be a good leader. But the good leader have to meet those 5 conditions?
None of us meet those perfectly. Yeah. And they're progressive. And so, especially in these kind of things, you have to look at, that's why I asked the question, which one is a strength and which one is a weakness? And so you work on your strengths and then you try to overcome those weaknesses.
You see that if we work for the particular organization, company or institution, whatever, and the good leader seem to make us so happy, right? Then in that case, which those 5 would really influence or makes us so happy?
Yes. So which one?
Which
That can make you, well, you know, it could be, it could be 2 or 3 of those. It could be that they are helping you toward your inspiration, or it could be that they are clarifying or are affirming your values. It could be that your dynamic determination that, oh yes, they made me happy because they helped me to overcome my obstacle. And so it can vary in an
You know, you all have to work for some particular company or institution, right? In that case, which do you think are the most important factors, or those your leader should be relationally connected or internal inspiration? Which one do you think? Several. Well, I want you to just choose several. If you want to work for a particular institute, right? And the leader should be what? What do you think? Nobody could meet 5 conditions, right? Yeah, but some conditions have to be met.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So which one do you think? Somebody? Come on. Yeah?
I think if you want to work in an institution, then the most important part is to be relationally connected.
I see.
Because
Okay.
you have to work with other people. not just-
Okay, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
that's good, yeah, relationally connected.
Yes. And do you like the people you're working with? Do you like your boss?
Right.
That would be, that's a great example.
What else? Yeah?
I think in academic perspective or business perspective, dynamic determination is
I see, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
If they lose this, they can earn money or they can get achievements.
They want to go bankrupt, to some extent, right?
Yeah. In academic
Sure,
perspective, yes.
Okay, that's good.
And if do you have the same determination? Are you both heading in the same direction? So that you're in different directions, you don't want to go there, yes.
Okay, what else? Any?
I'd say being emotionally healthy
I see.
is a requirement because it's kind of expected that everybody is emotionally healthy, and it's only really noticeable when somebody isn't. And then they're kind of the person rocking the boat, and when in an organization one person is emotionally unhealthy, it can either that person is ousted or that person, everybody learns to deal with them.
That's excellent.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No?
Yeah.
Anyone else? No? Okay, then.
That's a great question to think about, and I would say this as well. Depending on your needs personally, that might determine which one you value the most of your organization. You know, that if you are relationally connected outside of your job and that's being fulfilled, then you can be disconnected to some degree. Or if your job is a job that you just work in a cubicle or you work in an isolated area, you may not have relationships, and so you have to have those relationships in another different location. So again, we've talked about so far the leader and your mentor, that they give life, L-I-F-E. We've talked about the leader and self, that they basically, that you are, how am I doing? Do I have personal drive? And are those things true? The next one is the leader and others. The leader and others. And I want to give you another acrostic, S-E-R-V-E. That is that as you are leading other people, then what is the word? How do you do that effectively? I give at my university a number of years ago. I had an entire semester course on servant leadership, and we talked about what a servant leader is. I've summarized that just in these 5 points, basically. One is to be a servant or to serve others. There has to be a submission to the objective. A submission to the objective. Let me explain what that means. often when people think about servant leadership, they think about a leader just serves people. Well, they do, they serve, but you serve toward an objective. And for instance, if I am working with 5 people, and we have agreed that we're going to go to a certain place or a certain purpose or objective, and one of those people does not want to go there, and they want to go. We are going to work for McDonald's, and we're going to be the best McDonald's company there is, and there's 5 of us. One of those 5 says, you know, I think we need to start selling donuts. And every time in a meeting, they are trying to sell donuts instead of McDonald's, then I'm thinking, maybe you're in the wrong group. Not that you're a bad person, but we are submitted to an objective. We are heading toward an objective, and your objective is to sell donuts instead of selling hamburgers. And so the objective is always there. So serving other people is, in servant leadership, is the objective is agreed upon. We have the same objective. We have the same vision, the same purpose that's there. That's the first thing. Second is, you need to examine your people. A good leader, as they lead other people, they look at each person and they find out their strengths and their weaknesses, so that they can help that company or they can help that person do the best job possible. I'm going to Osaka next weekend to work with a group of 11 Americans who are going to be in Osaka for the summer, and we're doing some personality assessments. And I'm doing that, finding out what their personalities are and their strengths are, so they can work together effectively. They're going to the same purpose, but they need to think through, how do I relate to one another? And so a good leader examines their people to find out, Jim Collins wrote a book on leadership, and he made this statement. He said that a good leader gets the right people on the bus, and they get those people in the right seat. So the bus is going in this direction. Somebody on the bus needs to drive. Somebody needs to be in the back. Somebody needs to be over here. And a good leader makes sure that he gets the right people on that bus, and they're in the right position on the bus. And that requires examining your people. Number 3, they need to release responsibility. There's a new book that I'm in the process of purchasing, and it's called Not How, But Who. Not how, but who. Leaders get things done, but if leaders always do the work and they do not delegate it to somebody else, not as much work gets done. So the book is helping me to think through, instead of me asking, how can I do this, I should be asking, who in my organization can do this? Now, maybe I should do it, but maybe there is somebody else that should do so. And so a good leader finds out what the people can do, and then they say, now you, Dennis, you go do this part, and then you go do this part. And it delegates responsibility out, okay? So that's releasing responsibility. V is they value their insights. You mentioned earlier a value of respect. A good leader respects people's input. They listen for people. They listen for their people that's following them, and they say, what do you think about this? Because that often will help you to understand, oh, I did not think about that problem, and your comments to me helped me to understand what that problem was. So you value their insights. And then the last one is you can empower your people, meaning if they need more money, you try to provide more money. If they need better computers, you try to provide better computers. If they need more supplies, you do as the leader, you have to help them with the things that they need so that your people can get the job done. If I'm working at McDonald's and we're trying to sell hamburgers and there's no hamburger buns, then as the leader, I have to make sure who's going to order the hamburger buns. I can say make hamburgers, but if there's no buns, they can't make hamburgers. And so the leader is responsible to make sure the people who put the burgers together are have the hamburger patties to do that. Does that make sense? So that's just a quick summary of how we serve other people. Questions about those? We won't take the time to discuss them because we've just got a few more minutes and I want to highlight one other point in our lecture before we continue. But any questions about those? So what we have done, we've talked about a leader and their mentor, or the person who leads, they give life, L-I-F-E. We've talked about you need to have drive personally, you have to lead as you lead yourself. And now we've talked about as you lead these people, this person here, they serve so that they go in this direction. So they're serving them so that they can move in that direction toward that objective. Well, I want to now give you the structure for leadership, and we'll go through this pretty quickly because I'll give you some suggestions on it. When I think about the structure of leadership, when you look at your life or your organization, it starts with the vision and the purpose. Your company needs to know what the purpose is, what their vision is. Then your company needs to know what the values are of that company. Then you have goals that relate to that. And then you have a plan. You do that in your master's program or in your PhD program. You have an objective. On your dissertation, you've got a title for that dissertation or for that thesis. And then you start thinking through, this is what I'm trying to do my research on, and then you start breaking it down. That is true in life, in all aspects of life. We'll discuss the topic of purpose the next time we meet because we'll take more time for that. But just to realize, every leader knows their purpose. And your purpose can be both primarily a primary purpose and a secondary purpose. Example, your secondary purpose at this time is finishing your dissertation or finishing your master's thesis, possibly. But the other question would be is, what is your primary purpose? Why are you here, not just at this university, but why are you here even upon this earth, and as you're thinking about that? We'll address that in more detail because I don't want to brush through it. I'll keep on going through this part, but we'll do it next week. The second thing is your values. We've discussed values a second, but you need to understand that how your values are developed, and your values will often, and even in those two, you put this on the board. Some people, this is your purpose, your values, then your goals, and your plan. Some people start with the values, and that tells them their purpose, okay? Sometimes it's the opposite, the purpose feeds your values. But these two are very, very significant because it helps you to know how you're going in a direction. So let me just, we will discuss your purpose more next week. But values are they're progressive. They start with opinions. Everybody has an opinion on something. The opinions, they move to beliefs. A belief is a studied opinion. Example, I believe Toyotas were good cars. That's my opinion. Okay? My belief is, well, I've studied this and I've driven Toyotas and Hondas and Chevys and Fords and Dodges, and boy, I think I tested that Toyotas are really good cars, so I believe that. Then the conviction is a tested belief, meaning that I will buy a Toyota. And now I just bought a new one 2 years ago. I have 2 Toyotas in my house now, at my home, because my conviction is this is a very, very good car. And so in your life, you're always developing your values. I'll give a personal example. A number of years ago, my watch battery went out. And the watch battery has these little bitty screws in them. The back of the watch does. So what I did was I took it to the store and I said, my watch has died, can you put a new battery in it? Well, this person said yes. They took the watch apart, they got their little screwdriver and took those little 4 screws off of it, put the watch back in, and then started putting the screws back in. And as soon as they were doing that, they dropped a screw. And those screws are little bitty. They're very, very small. Well, she gets on the floor and she starts trying to find this screw. And so I say to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "I've dropped your watch screw. I'm trying to find it." So I said, "Okay." Well, I got on the floor and I started trying to find the screw as well. And then I said to her, I said, "If you don't find the screw, what happens?" She said, "I had to give you a new watch because we don't have any screws." Now, my watch was old. And I was thinking, I hope she does not find the screw. I'm wanting the new watch. As soon as she said that, I touched the screw. And then I had a choice to make. Because one of my values is honesty and truthfulness. So, do I tell her I have the screw, or do I put it in my pocket? And she says, "Well, I guess I have to give you a new watch." See, that was a conviction, a test. I believe you need to be honest. That's an opinion. I really believe it. Now, when it is tested, will I do that? And so I said, "I found the screw." She said, "Oh, good." She put the screw on, and I got a new battery and an old watch. But my value was tested. My values were tested. So in your life, there are going to be things in your life where it's going to be tested. Honesty, truthfulness, integrity, as Obara Sensei mentioned. Those things that you and I need to think through on a consistent basis. Next thing is our goals. Our goals need to be smart. They're specific, they're measurable, they're action-oriented, they're realistic, and they're timely. So when you think about making a goal, you ask yourself the question, well, is my goal a SMART goal? Is it specific? For instance, I want to be healthy. That's a goal. Is healthy a SMART goal? Well, it's not specific. What does that mean? I mean, I want to walk so much, I want to eat well, I want to exercise, and so that gives more specifics. And then the goals in my life, my goals are in 4 areas. I call them past goals. Physical. I'm always thinking about my life physically, of being healthy physically, and exercising and working with weights or exercise. My academic or my intellectual goals, I'm always reading or thinking. Even after I did my doctoral work, I need to be always learning. So I think about academic. I have my students write academic goals and physical goals. I have them write relational goals, and that's relationships. Do they have relationships? Do they engage with people? And then lastly, I value the spiritual side of their life as well. And so I encourage the students to think through, what is your spiritual goal? We have people from all across the world here. Some may be Christian, some may be Muslim, some may be Buddhist, some could be Shinto, some could be atheist. And so, but it's helping each person thinking through, I think is important, what is their spiritual goal as well. And then I'll often say in my class, if you don't want to write a spiritual goal, you can put something else. You can write a financial goal or something else. But I want the person to think through specifically, what goals do I have? Are they SMART? And then, do they meet at least these 4 or 5 character areas of their life? Okay. And so, if you were in my class back in America, your first assignment would be, what is your purpose in life? And we'll discuss that next time. The second one would be, what are your goals? And are they SMART? What are your goals for the semester? Well, in closing, what we're going to do is, next week when we get together, we're going to talk about your plan, and with that, not only your personal plan, but even how to become a global leader. And we're going to engage in having goals and knowing specifics of how you can be a leader, not just personally, but how you can be a leader in the world, and what you need to do effectively to do that. So we'll be talking about global leadership. Any questions you'd like to ask before I turn it over to your professor, because he may have an assignment he wants you to do.
No question?
I have no question, but I have a question. Thank you for your today's class.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, and I know I could understand Guy and Sad.
Okay.
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Well, good. Thank you. Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you for that.
Any feedback, questions, comments?
Other feedback or questions? You have the PowerPoint, and this has the reference list of books and read.
I have already uploaded this.
Yes, you do, that's what I thought, yes.
By the way, I have given you this sheet, you can look at. Maybe it might be tentative, but sometime it may be going to change. However, today we had a special lecture on insights in personal leadership. Next week, around 11 students will be coming over here. And then Professor Weakley is going to give us a lecture, and at the same time, we're going to have a discussion. 1 to 1 to 2. Okay, next week, yeah. And then next week, just like he mentioned, research, worldview, and the future careers, we're going to talk about the life purpose and whatever. And so maybe I want you to prepare. You have already